Darla.
Pleasure.
Please,
Enjoy.
I appreciate you having me here, that's for sure. Wrong one. Well, thank you all for coming out. I definitely appreciate it, especially Miss Casana. She was our Florida Citrus Queen last year. She's Miss Florida this year, and she's going to be right here in Orlando in January competing at Miss America. So we hope if you guys can attend that. Yes. We have a special treat at the end of this where we have a little 5-minute video of her learning how to water ski. It's part of the 100th, this is our 100th year centennial, and it was also the 100th year for water skiing in Winter Haven, so we kind of combined those. That was kind of fun. But let me go ahead and start the program. I've been around this a long time, but I've never actually given a program specifically on the Florida Citrus Queens. So I learned a lot myself in just going back to some of the beginnings. But the citrus industry drew people to Florida with dreams of wealth and retirement, which eventually brought with it substantial economic development from the hardy pioneers who chose to make Florida their home. Their livelihood was widely marketed by not only the citrus packing houses who sold their fruit, but also by their respective chambers of commerce and tourism partners from across the state. Now today, the heart of Florida's citrus industry is still beating, yet its heyday has made way for real estate investors and housing that has displaced the numerous hills and acres of citrus groves, with few newcomers aware of the vital role that citrus and agriculture once played in shaping the history of our state as a tourist destination and its vital role in the economy of the people who continue to live and work here. Early ads and photographs portrayed the healthy lifestyle and benefits of Florida citrus, encouraging the nation to buy Florida citrus to gain the so-called easy lifestyle enjoyed by Floridians. Citrus was a healthy, natural fruit or beverage, and as early as the 1930s, ads were touting the health benefits of citrus for colds, a much sought-after remedy in the frigid northern states during the dreary cold winter months. Packing houses even opened their doors to visitors as a means to create customer loyalty, such as Waverly Citrus Growers Association's Welcome House. But perhaps the most well-known promotional tool of the industry was when Tiaras ruled, the Florida Citrus Queen program. It all started 100 years ago, in 1924, when a group of citrus growers in Winter Haven decided to showcase the state's burgeoning citrus industry with a celebration they originally called the Florida Citrus Orange Festival, featuring business booths, beautiful displays of citrus fruit, and a search for young women to represent the industry during the 3-day festival. Now, Dorothy Williamson was 22 years old when she was crowned as the first citrus queen in 1924, alongside the one and only citrus king, Harvey Henderson. Now, I have Jerry Schicone as my citrus king, and we all have to remember that. But the citrus rulers were chosen by ballot and voted on by the people of Polk County. She was actually the daughter of Francis E. Williamson, who owned Winter Haven's Ritz Theater, and she went on to become the president of the Winter Haven's Business and Professional Women's Club. However, due to the Depression, no other queens were chosen after Dorothy until around 1930, when Ruth Snyder won the crown during what was then called the Florida Orange Festival. Eventually, it was renamed in 1947 to the Florida Citrus Exposition, and again in the 70s to the Florida Citrus Festival. Yet the Queen's title remained the Florida Citrus Queen until 1983, when the name was changed to Miss Florida Citrus. It was changed in that time because as the women's movement started, people were not comfortable with the women wearing the crowns, and they felt it was a little bit of a detriment. So I thought that was unusual. It's come back now. But I thought that was something that I went through, because I was a Florida Citrus Queen, and then 2 years later it became Miss Florida Citrus. So now I wanted to read this to you because I thought it was pretty funny, but the early newspaper reporters were quite a different breed than those we have today, and their descriptions often bordered on the extreme. So I'm just going to read a couple of these to you because I thought they were pretty funny. So Ruth Snyder, the 1930, was described as the fairest feminine flower of the land of flowers. Kathy Darlin, the 1950 queen, was labeled a bright-eyed brownette. And Pat Burgoon, 1952, was called fairest of the fair. But my favorite accolade was for the 1934 queen, and it's perhaps chart topper. And you'll bear with me on this one. Amid the blare of trumpets and with a pomp and grandeur comparable only to the royal courts of fairy legend, Margaret of the House of Giddens was crowned queen of the 1934 Orange Festival on the huge stage on the shores of Lake Silver. The beauteous brunette, in satin and pearls, entered with queenly dignity and seated herself on the golden throne which centered the big stage as the ballet of 8 dainty dancers gaily danced around the maypole. So I had to share that. Now, the Florida Citrus Queen pageant went on to become one of the most prestigious pageants in the state as she traveled throughout the world promoting Florida's citrus industry and appeared on numerous TV programs, radio, and television interviews. Esther Williams even portrayed her in the movie Easy to Love, which was filmed at Cypress Gardens. And it's a great little movie. I love that movie. In the magazine article, A Contest, a Crown, and a Lot of Hard Work by Michael P. Mahoney, the 1969 Florida Citrus Queen, Kathy Young, explained what it was like during her year as Florida Citrus Queen. She said, practically everything a citrus queen does requires that she begin at daybreak and work well into the evening hours. And she was right. Now, what exactly did the queen do during these long hours? Having done that, the better question is, what didn't the queen do? There were visits to cities, convention appearances, photo shoots, television appearances, meetings and interviews with news people, celebrities, retailers, and more, all within the space of a few days or in 1 week. This is the Mike Douglas show up on the corner left that was filmed at Cypress Gardens. You've got Citrus Queen Patty Bohannon at the Florida Legislature with State Senator Verl Pope, and then Carol Kelly was a guest on the NBC's Today Show. That just shows you just a little bit of what they did. Now, Carol Kelly, I'll talk about it a little bit later. She actually and her husband own a hotel over in St. Petersburg called the Carol, and she has pictures of her as her queen year throughout the entire hotel. So you have to make a trip over there. It's quite lovely. But now there are also these publicity stunts, such as the one we did with Casana, but she didn't have to do this. We had LaVoyce Leggett, who was perched on the top of the Holiday Inn sign in Winter Haven, in a swimsuit, and it was February. And February back in the 60s was pretty cold back then. And then the other one is she's presenting fruit to heads of state, also in a swimsuit. Now that takes a lot of poise to be able to handle that type of thing. Today's young women would not even be asked to do some of these stunts, but the ladies of yesteryear were expected to, and they did. Now, one of the biggest promoters of some of these iconic images that we see with citrus fruit and the young ladies was Dick Pope Sr. He was the founder of Cypress Gardens, and he was very instrumental in the use of bathing beauties and citrus as a means to market Florida to the nation. This is one of the television shows that were filmed there, and this was Miss Giddens of the flowery speech that they gave, 1934. But Dick Pope created elaborate displays of citrus, featuring the women in bathing suits dressed as Southern belles. This is 1958 Florida Citrus Queen Kay McLean, and Al Michael, who is his daughter-in-law, still alive over in Vero Beach. I met her, and she gave me this photo. I'd never had it before. So, because she was calling to have me ID who the Citrus Queen was. But you'll notice all of these pictures were pictures that Dick Pope would take and send out through the different PR services to try to get people to think of Florida in regards to the iconic beaches, the citrus, the sun, the sand, and of course the Southern belles, because that helped him sell his Cypress Gardens images. Now, what many people don't realize is that some of these end up being postcards, and they're still collectible today. All of these are postcards. These are scenes he created at Cypress Gardens. You'll see in the far left there, that used to have a sign that said Citrus Royalty over the top. And I have a picture of me in that seat up there. Here's another one. He would send these out for Valentine's Day. Any type of holiday, he would create some type of a scene with citrus fruit and the Southern belles, Miss Florida Citrus, and have those pictures sent out, have postcards made, have them in his gift shop there to sell. And they were featured throughout the world. In Life magazines, he's had like a 2-page spread on some of this stuff that he sent out. It was amazing, the publicity that he garnered for the industry at that point in time when we really, weren't doing that type of advertising. Uniquely enough, he actually worked for the Florida Citrus Commission as a PR rep, and this was part of the Florida Citrus Pictorial Publicity Program of 1947 and 48. And we have a whole book of some of the things that he sent out and the press clippings that he garnered from some of these images that he sent out. Now, the Florida Citrus Queen met numerous people while marketing our crop. This is Burt Reynolds in 1968, and this is Burt Reynolds in 1992. And then many of you may have seen the pool at Cypress Gardens that was in the shape of Florida. Well, as the Miss Florida Citrus program, Miss Florida Citrus Queen program, we would always have our picture taken around that pool during the annual pageant. And there have been a couple times when they had Miss Florida actually come out to that pool in the past, where all of the different cities were around that pool as well. So that was quite unique. But Merv Griffin even had an OJ squeeze-off. I forgot about that. He had an OJ squeeze-off during his TV show, which was at Disney World, to try to attract national attention. That was when they first opened Disney, I want to say in '78. Now, she's been doing a lot of different photography, made appearances throughout the world, but she's also was at a lot of the golf tournaments that they would put together for another, again, promotional opportunities. And this was the Lady Citrus Golf Tournament that I thought was at here in Orlando at Rio Mar, but I can't read that. And they also had the, is it Rio Pinard? Yeah, okay. Now this is Marlon Brando, Hugh Downs, and the 1963 Florida Citrus Queen, Sue Scarborough. Up here is 1956, Dorothy Steiner with Florida Governor Leroy Collins. Now what he's doing here, we used to send out a box of fruit to every governor in the entire United States. And so what he's doing is writing a personal letter to each governor to go in each box of fruit. And this is 1932. Wish I had a better picture, but this is Kathleen Kelly and getting on an Eastern Airlines plane to go up to New York City to promote the industry. She was even at the World's Fair. This was the one in New York, 1964-65. That's both the pamphlet and the actual thing itself as they were building it. It's not the completed one. You can actually see where some of the things were done. But they had, at that time, they had an entire ski show going around there as well. It was quite interesting. Now, this was 1966, Florida Citrus Festival. That's LaVoice Leggett Porter, who lives in Longwood. And she was the one who was on top of that Holiday Inn sign. She was the one who in 2012, we were having the 50th anniversary for the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame. And she came to we got all the queens together that we could find, and she came to a luncheon there and asked me if I would revive the Florida Citrus Queen pageant as part of the Miss America system. And I said, oh, I'd love to do that, because she said she'd give us a grant to do it. And she goes, oh, that's great, but the only caveat is you need to do it by March of next year. Well, this is November. I don't know how we did it, but we did. And thus that started 2015. That's how Casana got here. So it was nice, because the citrus pageant had ended in 2004. It was under the auspices of Florida Citrus Showcase, which had gone bankrupt at that point and gone under. So we pulled it out in 2015 and brought it back, and we've been really helping the industry and getting things going ever since that time. Now in 1984, the name changed to Miss Florida Citrus, and Lori Grubb, I had Lori Grubb, it's actually Lori Sherrard. Grubb was her married name. And her father is Brantley Sherrard, a prominent grower over in the Indian River area. And so she was the first Miss Florida Citrus. And you have Renee McLeod and Rosemary Payne. They're all Miss Florida Citruses. And it was changed at that time because I started to say, you know, the crown was becoming, with the women's movement that was going on, they thought the crown was passé, it was demeaning to women, that type of thing. When you're trying to promote an industry, you want something that's going to be standing out. So we never thought that the crown was passé. I always wanted them to leave the crown on. But it was at a time when the women's movement just didn't think pageants were anything that was good for women. Yeah, I totally disagree, because when any of the people that you know have been in a pageant, they have more interviews than they'll ever have that anybody will ever have doing a job. And so they are so well prepared when they get into an interview situation, getting a job, and they're so much better rounded. All the different facets that they have to do as being in these pageants is unbelievable. And it's talent, it's interviews, it's doing your social service to your community service, and promoting yourself as a brand. So all these things that these young ladies have to do is a lot of work, and it's changed a lot, but for the good. And now the crowns are definitely coming back. They have been phenomenal for our industry in terms of helping promote the industry. So I'm really happy that we were able to keep that going, and thank LaVoice every time I see her. Now, parades, again, those are big things. At one time, we used to have parades in all the major cities where the Citrus Queen would be flown in, and she would be on some of those floats. This is the Lakeland one, which at one time was the World Citrus Center. And then from Florida to Japan, we've gone all over the world, not just Japan, but throughout Europe, through Canada, through Hong Kong, Japan, everything else. This is me in 1981. So I went over there the first time for 2 weeks. I made the mistake of kissing in our first appearance, I kissed the manager of the baseball teams I was presenting fruit to. It hit every national paper in Japan. Sales increased like 5 to 10%. And after that, I mean, the rest of my entire tour, I had to do 2 pictures with everybody I met. I had to do one like this and one kissing him on the cheek that he could shed all his buddies. So that's a Southerner for you. So we changed in the years 2015. Summer Foley is in the middle there. And you can see a little bit, that's Patty Bohannon to the left when we did some of the shows down at, when Norma Hall was in Winter Haven. They had some of the big TV shows at that time that were held there. And then to the right, as the Miss Florida Citrus evolved, we would have her on a number of different shows doing either cooking shows or major talk shows, talk TV shows. And that's Lauren Bacall. So she was on her show with her. One of the things that people don't realize, and you never hear this at all, and I had actually forgot about it myself, it's the role that these women played when things didn't go well. The lady on the left is Lisa Maley. She lives here in Orlando. She was, when the 70s industry spokesperson, Anita Bryant, was under attack for her personal beliefs, excuse me, she was the Florida Citrus Queen at that time. She actually had to deflect physical volleys of oranges at her. People would throw oranges at her when she went on appearances, and was constantly asked by both the media and the general public about Anita Bryant's stance. And her goal, she said, was to continue to promote the wholesomeness of Florida orange juice and deflect any talk about her beliefs at the time. But imagine how hard that would have been to be in her shoes at that point, because to this day, I still get hate mail about Anita Bryant that she's in the Hall of Fame. To this day. And it's vitriolic. It's so bad. It's like, oh my gosh. And then the TV shows, in terms of when canker came through, we had to have the young women go through media training so they would know how to deflect that and answer the questions, because everything that they were talking about at the time was canker, canker, canker. But people were hearing cancer, cancer, cancer. It was a totally different thing. So these were the people who were on the front line of all of these things that were happening to the industry. So they had to be told and shown and instructed how to answer these questions and really know it, because they're caught on the carpet all the time. So this was Sherry Cook. We also did cooking shows. Now, I wasn't a cook at that time, but I learned how. And then, again, that's totally different than in the early days when they're having to pose in the orange groves in a swimsuit. I couldn't imagine doing that, especially right now, but a little older now. But it was just something that people didn't realize that you had to do. So from serving juice in Japan to flipping the coin at the Citrus Bowl to being with the White Sox. Sherry had a good time. She had a good year. But that was Sherry. This is Mandy Cook. And then that's Mandy Cook there as well. And Mandy, she was in 7 different countries, in addition to throughout the entire United States during her year. And she spoke fluent German. The only reason she even entered the contest was because she had something happen with her job that she had lined up over in Germany. And her mother and father were both in the industry. Her mother worked for the USDA, and her father was a citrus grower. And they asked her to do the contest, and she did, and she won it. And she said it completely changed her life. She came back, and she ended up working for Florida's Natural Growers for a decade. She met her husband, whom she married, her whole family. And she's been a supporter of the Miss Florida Citrus program ever since. Now, another thing that people don't think about are, the legislative side of things. The Queens often helps open doors for either the sales reps or the people in the industry to get in to see some of the legislators that they might not have would have been able to get an appointment with otherwise. This is oh heck, No, it's Lawton. I'm talking about Sonia. Sonia Surrency. She was with President Ford. She was chatting with him, and if she hadn't had a crown and banner on, he wouldn't have known who she was. But yes, and then that is Emily Howell, who has her own consulting base in Lakeland, and that is Lawton Childs and his wife, Rhea, right? Yeah, Walking Lawton, exactly. And so, again, we would walk the halls in Tallahassee with the people in the industry who needed to get in to see some of these people so that we could go and, we just want to stop and take a picture. And then while we're taking the picture, by the way, they'd get in whatever they could at that time. So in celebration of the centennial year, many of the queens we interviewed recalled a day in the life of Miss Florida Citrus as, and this is mainly mine, so. An early wake-up call to do media interviews, such as the 4 a.m. farm show in Chicago, which I didn't get a wake-up call for. So I answered the door with, no curlers, no makeup, and he goes, "Aren't you ready? Brenda, we've got to be on there." So I got ready in the car, and we made it. But it was tough in the dark. But then you would serve juice for breakfast at a restaurant chain, do media appearances after that. You'd go to schools to do visits with that. You'd go to a lunch area restaurant serving juice at a different restaurant, more media appearances, visits to hospitals, nursing homes, dinner with retailers and suppliers at night, and then getting up and doing it all over again in the next day, just in a different location. But with that said, many have gone on to successful careers of their own. Carol Kelly, I told you about her. She and her husband have the hotel chain over in St. Petersburg called the Carol. LaVoyce Leggett, she had her own travel business for like 25, 27 years. She had to carry 2 jobs when her husband had been deployed. And then when they got back, they now own a very successful insurance company in Longwood. Lori Sherrard, she had her own citrus business for years, and now she runs an equine rescue place over in Sebring. And funny enough, this is her dad, Brantley, with Mandy. And Mandy, like I said, she was 10 years. She was with Florida's Natural, and she and her husband run Jarrett Ford. They have a number of dealerships, and she runs the real estate side of that for him. So I can go back almost every single one of the citrus queens that have some type of successful business. Now, we also had a number of queens go to become Miss Florida, and then Miss America, are close, like Ann Daniel, who's on the left. She was first run-up to Lee Merriweather, who was Miss America, and then Miss America, Lee Merriweather, came back to help her crown Sally Archer because they were such good friends. And then Michaela McLean, she was 2019?
Double year, so. Double,
yeah, 19 and 20?
Yes.
I think so. So she was, no, that was Layla, I think.
Okay, then
Maybe
20 to 21.
Yeah. So Michaela, she won Miss Florida, and she got in the top 15 at Miss America. And this coming January, we hope to see Casana. And so our centennial celebration, we had a number, there were 18 at the luncheon, I think, and we might have been missing a few at this particular picture. We had more up on stage earlier. But we had a number of the queens come back. We had a great time. We got interviews with a lot of them, not all of them, but we have video interviews. If you want to go onto our website and see some of the videos, some of them are short, 3 to 5 minutes, and others are longer. But it was a lot of fun, and everybody really, really had a good time and appreciated it. And now I'm going to show, this is LaVoyce again. It's like I would have just never been able to do that because I would have been afraid of falling off of that thing. But hopefully this will work. Let me see. Nope, let me go back one more. I want to show you her video. Okay, well, I might have to have you come up here and find this for me again. Yep. It's a video that we did in honor of the 100th centennial, the centennial celebration for, there you go, thank you, for the Florida Citrus Queen, and then Winter Havens had their 100th centennial same year for water skiing. Oh, sound's not on. Wait, can we back up? won the Miss Florida Citrus Pageant,
Thank you
which
so
is a
much.
preliminary competition for the Miss America system. And we started this back up in 2015, but it originated in 1924. Very first Florida Citrus Queen was chosen right here on the shores of Lake Silver in 1924. That was Dorothy Williamson. So this is our centennial celebration. And citrus is the state's largest agricultural entity. And even though we've had a lot of citrus grading taking place and it's reduced our crop, this Florida citrus is a part of Polk County's heritage. And so is water skiing. So it's really an iconic joining of two different things that I think will be kind of interesting because she's never water skied before. And it's a little chilly out here today.
Hopefully she's got a little bit of sports in her, just a little bit, if that's okay. And the trouble today is it's cold water. The air is okay, it'll be okay, but the water's cold. So it's hard to teach when it's cold. But we've got pieces on the boat called a boom. It's going to help teach her. Hopefully we can keep her dry, or as dry as we can. But that's the nice thing here. Water ski capital of the world, right here in Polk County, Winter Haven, Lakeland. There's more skiing stuff here than anywhere else. And so we continue to teach people, and from the ground up, how to put your skis on, how to get in the water, how to get up on 2 skis, 1 ski, dock slides, all that stuff. So that's where it's at. Teaching the next people.
Yeah, so Brenda, my director, reached out to me and said, I have a great idea. We're going to take you out to Lake Silver. We're going to teach you how to water ski. It's the 100th anniversary of Cypress Gardens. It's the 100th anniversary of Miss Florida Citrus. At first, I thought she was absolutely insane because I've heard water skiing is difficult, especially for a first timer. I didn't think that we'd be able to learn how to water ski and get the footage all in one day. I was a little panicked, but if there's anything I try to avoid with my brain, it's letting Brenda down.
She was a sport. It was like 54 degrees.
So how many times have you been up on the water skis?
This is the first.
The first?
That was the first.
I thought you had to drag them around the lake at least 20 times before they found the basket.
Somehow my hair stayed dry. So first they taught me with the training bar, then I was going off the rope. I would say it was probably the best workout I got in a long time, but just being able to have that skill now. I mean, I never thought as a sport of citrus I would be water skiing across Lake Silver in the summer that water skiing has been a part of for the past 100 years. It was an incredible collaboration, and I'm glad Brenda had faith in me.
Casana's being a sport today because we've asked her to do this in honor of the 100th centennial. Shores of Lake Silver was where the first citrus queen was chosen, and we thought it would be a nice touch to have her learn how to water ski on the same lake where the first Florida citrus queen was chosen. And as a title holder and representing the citrus industry, they tend to go above and beyond, and she's definitely doing that today. Got her crown and banner on there. She never fell, though.
Well, there was that concern that if I went out there with my sash and crown on, that it would end up at the bottom of the lake. But I just have to have faith in the training leading up to it. I do wish we could have done it without the safety jacket, the life jacket. But I think it was in everyone's best interest that I kept it on. I mean, those are going to be photos and videos that I look back on for forever, and I can't wait to show my kids, like, this is what your mom did when she was Miss Florida Citrus. So it was just a great experience.
Yay, Casana! And with that, like I said, needless to say, for 100 years, we've made a splash. So I always say, raise your glass, make a toast to these unsung heroes. And with that said, would you come up and maybe say a few words for us?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Every time I watch that video back, I feel like I don't look very athletic, but that was really hard, and I'm so proud of myself for staying up that day. I have to say that as Miss Florida, reflecting back on my time as Miss Florida Citrus, there is nothing that prepared me more for the job now of traveling the state. And we were talking about Miss LaVoice Porter earlier about when she was Miss Florida Citrus. It stuck with her for the rest of her life, where she really felt like it was part of her DNA, and that's exactly how I felt. I cried the day that I gave up my title, because once you're a part of the citrus industry, that doesn't leave. I think about the growers, I think about the organizations that I got to work with, traveling across our nation to Texas to serve orange juice, and just seeing how happy the citrus industry makes people, but also seeing how resilient the citrus industry is. It was the gift and honor of a lifetime to be Miss Florida Citrus, and within the Miss America organization, it's a title that so many young women have so much pride about, but also how many young women have had such dreams and ambitions of being able to represent this industry. And even though we're not in the heyday of citrus, I truly do believe that it still has such a mark on Florida's DNA and who we are as a state. And so I'm just so happy to be a part of a little piece of the history that we saw today. I mean, I was getting emotional sitting here just watching how beautiful this legacy is, and the fact that those are kind of my forever sisters, and I get to be a part of something so beautiful as that. And thank you, Miss Brenda, for always making sure that the history is shared, whether it be the citrus queens of the citrus industry. You truly are making a footprint of every single person that's had an impact on Florida.
Well, thank you.
Yes, of course. So that's really all that I have to say, but it's thank you so much for thinking of inviting me today, because it's such a beautiful event.
So happy you're here.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So that's a brief 100-year history on that. If you have any questions, so either me or Casana, sorry. Of course, the next one was Alana, not Atlanta. And then it was Casana, I'd always say, but not Casana. So I had to get them back to back, you know. But does anybody have any questions at all? Well, thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it. And I'm just, yes, ma'am.
Tell them how you got involved as becoming the queen.
Well, that is a story. So I needed money for college, and I was Miss Winter. I went to Miss. My friend entered me into the Miss Winter Haven contest, and she filled out my form and did my routine and everything else. And I don't know who was more surprised, me or my family, that I won, but I did win. And then I filled in for the Florida Citrus Queen, and I'm right here in Winter Garden. We went through the Winter Garden Citrus Co-op plant, and Bob Eastman was there at the time. He was running the Florida Citrus Showcase, and he and I got to be good friends. And he talked Bill Raley into sponsoring me in the Florida Citrus Queen contest the next year. So the very first year, I did not even place. I forgot my sponsor's name on stage because those were the only 2 pageants I'd ever been in. So I was scared to death. So I didn't do very well, but I came back 2 years later, and at that time I was working at WSIR Radio. It's an AM radio and radio station in Winter Haven, selling radio advertising for an AM radio station in Winter Haven. So, and I went ahead and entered again, and my boss called me in his office, and he goes, I hear you're entering the Citrus Queen contest. I said, yeah, thinking he's going to be really happy for me. He goes, well, I don't know why you're doing that. I mean, you know, if you're serious about doing that, I'm going to have to let you go. I said, excuse me? He goes, yeah. I said, well, why would you do that? He goes, well, because I need a salesperson. And if you want to do something frivolous like that instead of a real job, then, I'll need to find another salesperson. I said, well, why? He goes, well, because you'll probably win. I said, well, I don't know if that's a backhanded compliment or what. So he goes, well, you need to make a decision. I said, well, I've already entered and I'm going to go ahead and do it, so I guess I quit. and fortunately, I won the contest, and the rest is history. But I've been with the industry, see, after 81, I went over to Japan and made the kiss heard around the world. And then when I got back, the Department of Citrus hired me for 3 years as their spokesperson. Unfortunately, that was during the freeze years, so money went down, 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 and my program was going to be one of those that got cut. But at that time, what I was doing was booking myself into media interviews throughout the eastern half of the United States and going out and doing them. So I'd call up, not myself, saying, I'm calling for Brenda Eubanks, and book myself in interviews. But after that, then I went into the Florida Citrus Showcase, and that's how I started running the Hall of Fame because I met Jerry. And Jerry called me and goes, I was a very new executive director. I'd been there, I started in September. At that time, the Hall of Fame was in January, February. And he calls me up and goes, young lady, you don't know me, but you're about to. He goes, Kathy Clay over at the Department of Citrus has not returned my calls, and I need somebody, to do these scripts for the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame honorees. And that's going to be you. I said, yes, sir. I'm going to do it. And we've been friends ever since. We pulled that one out. So, but no, it's Hall of Fame has been a lifelong love from that point. So I'm very blessed.
Are you making this presentation throughout the state or just for us tonight?
This is my first time doing this one, so just for you. But if anybody wants me anywhere else, let me know. I'll be happy to travel. So.
I have a story about Brenda.
Oh, no.
Because we lived in Orlando, and she was living in Winter Haven, I guess. And they're writing their first citrus label book. And I would go upstairs and go to bed at night, and Jerry would stay down, and he would be in contact with Brenda through fax. And so he would come upstairs, and I said, have you been faxing all night with Brenda? And he was. Until like 2 in the morning. And I didn't think that was, I thought it should be with me, not with you.
I was the fax affair.
That is the only affair that I know of. 65 years of marriage.
Yep. And she's my honorary queen, because she's his queen, but my honorary queen. So. But again, thank you guys so much for having me here today. Really appreciate it, and I'm so happy that Casana was able to come because she puts the icing on the cake there. So thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.